Welcome back to We Still Like Each Other, the podcast. I'm Travis.
And I'm Stephanie.
And this is the podcast where we show that the honeymoon stage can last forever.
And ever and ever. And if you're watching from home, you can see that we have two guests with us.
Ooh.
So it's our first time having a couple in person. And if you watch on YouTube, you can also tell we're not in our usual home studio. We are in the Polanco household.
Hey.
And we have Leo.
How's it going, everybody?
And Brittany. And they are our first in-person couple guests, and we are super, super excited.
Welcome, guys. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
No, welcome you.
Yeah, and welcome
Yes.
to our home.
Yeah, so moving our studio here was tricky. So
yeah, we're going to take a shot.
So Leo
Yeah,
and Travis are going to take a shot
We deserve
because they deserve it.
Travis.
Salud. Salud, salud.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right.
Ooh.
I smell that thing when I poured it.
You got more hairs on your chest, babe?
Excuse me.
Travis is a lightweight, if
Yeah.
y'all didn't already know that.
That thing's
Wow.
strong.
Yeah, we're
All right. So today we have Brittany and Leo. I went to high school with Brittany. I'm a little older than her, though. So we weren't really like cool in high school. But we actually spoke a lot about Brittany on our money episode earlier on.
Like the first couple episodes.
Yeah, maybe episode 3 or 4 around
Brittany
there.
doesn't know how important she is to us. It's true, though. It's
Yeah.
true.
yeah.
So
Aw.
and in episode 3, in the money episode, we talk a lot about that. But now we're here to talk about different things, get to know Brittany and Leo as a couple. This is a relationship podcast, and we're really excited to get started. How do y'all feel?
Good. I'm kind of nervous.
A little nervous?
But I'm sure it'll be all right in like 2 minutes.
So to try to break the nerves, we are going to have a couple icebreaker questions. The first question is, who tells the better story of how y'all met?
I don't know. I feel like we haven't really told it that often. But in general, I tell better stories because Leonardo is like, Leonardo will tell you like everything.
I tell you all the details, but
and it'll take like 3 hours.
but it's. I think it's funny though because I feel like whenever we do tell our story, we both kind of tell it differently.
Yeah, we do.
Because like I said, I include more details, and I feel like you be missing out on like the little
So
details,
it
but they low
sounds
key matter.
to me like Brittany should tell the story, but that Leo's gonna dive in
Yeah,
and like
I'll try. I'll
some
chime in.
details.
chime
I
in
had
and,
pancakes for breakfast that
Yeah,
day,
we're
and it really set the mood.
dead.
So go ahead, shoot.
God, our story is, well, we've known each other for what? I guess like over 12 years now, probably.
Yeah, we met in middle
Yeah,
school.
like 15 years maybe. We've met in middle school, went to middle school together. He was my first little boyfriend.
You were like my third.
Get out of here.
Third boyfriend? Or?
Nah, girlfriend. Third girlfriend.
No, he... I was in what? I was in 7th grade. You were in 6th grade.
Yeah,
so
you
he's
were
a
a
year
grade
younger
older
than
than
me. And we met there. I mean, I don't remember much because, you know, we were so young. But I do remember him being my boyfriend. I think you were my first kiss. And we were literally like 12. So, you know.
So wait, you were in 8th grade and he was in 7th?
I was in 7th grade.
Yeah,
he
I was in
6th.
6th.
Yeah.
I feel like when I was in middle school, I would have been too immature. Like to date a younger guy, I would have been like, hell no. Like, I'm too grown for this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I don't remember. It was so long ago. I can't
Yeah.
really
It's
remember. But
crazy
I,
though,
yeah.
like-
You felt
Like,
like, the man.
looking back at it now is like we dating in like 6.
Yeah, and I see an 11-year-old. I'm like, what the?
Yeah, weird. But
But
I had a
It is what
girlfriend
it
in
is.
6th grade. I remember having a girlfriend. It wasn't serious. I don't know if
Yeah.
we ever
yeah,
kissed.
I mean,
yeah.
It's like we walked next to each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, ooh.
That was romance.
a tap kiss was like you tell all your friends, "Wow, I had my first kiss."
No, but that's how we
Yeah.
met. And we went our separate ways. And in high school, we kind of talked just like as friends every now and then, but we weren't really like super connected. And then one random day, after high school, I was like 19, and it was your senior year, I think. He was enlisting in the military, and he was on his way to the office, and I was walking. So he was walking up Fordham
yeah.
on Fordham and Webster, and I was walking down Fordham. Came up the D train, and I just saw him like walking in the street. And I've always been like a very like shy, quiet person, like where I don't like put myself out there too much, but I saw him and I don't know why I just got excited. I was like, Leonardo? And
I have that effect on people.
so we just talked for like a couple minutes. He told me, you know, he was going to the office. He was joining the Marine Corps. And
is it that like little army thing on the middle of Grand Concourse?
Yeah, so like the recruiting center that's in the middle of Grand Concourse.
It's right on the concourse.
So that's like, that was like the little, like the outside area, but the actual office was that, you know, where the pizza shop is right there. Literally, if you get off the D train,
yes,
it's like the best Italian pizza. The
these,
office
these
is
are
on
the
second
details
floor.
I was talking about.
Yeah. And for those who are not from the Bronx, this is like a major street in
Grand
the Bronx.
Concourse in Fordham. But yeah, that was my recruiting
like
office. The what?
Yeah.
It sounds like fate bumping into each other like that.
Yeah,
Could be.
Yeah, probably.
Could be.
But I mean, that was just our like reintroduction to each other.
And then we started chatting on Facebook. And he was about to start boot camp when that whole like reconnection happened. And I think you were dating someone at the time too.
We were both in
relationships. So we weren't really like, you know.
It was just like
familiar.
it was just a friendship. But yeah, low key, you know, I always had a thing for Brittany. So it was a mutual feeling. You had a thing for me too.
Speak for yourself. No.
No.
What were you kind of like bummed when you bumped into her because you're like, damn, I do have a girlfriend?
No. At the time,
It didn't feel like much. It was just kind of like I haven't seen you in like so many years.
Because we still followed each other on like social media. So, and we had similar interests. So it was like, it was cool to like spark that friendship again.
Yeah.
But like we both had relationships going on. I was ready to go to boot camp. So it wasn't
Nothing
right
really
time
went.
for us.
Yeah, nothing really went from
And
there.
I don't even think
it was like that. It was like that for a while in the beginning of our like
we weren't even
reconnection.
trying to
It was
get
just never the
together.
right time. So from there, he went to boot camp, and I was supposed to write him, and I never wrote him. And then he came back. He came back, and then we just started talking on Facebook, just like as friends. And he was going to the schoolhouse in Florida.
Yeah.
And then when he was there, I think both of us ended our relationships, and we were talking as a little bit more than friends.
Yeah.
And then this was like in 2014, I think.
Probably a little earlier.
Maybe like 2012, 2013.
Yeah,
And
it's 2013 because then I ended up going to Japan.
no, you went to California first.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. He went to California, and from there, me and him were like seriously talking.
Yeah.
And I almost moved to California. I bought a one-way ticket, and I was going to move with one of my friends that I used to work with because he wanted to go to California too. So we were both just going to move. We were going to go to LA.
Oh, yeah.
And then I ended up not going because I got back together with my ex. and then Leonardo and I stopped talking. From there.
So when you say you were talking pretty seriously, you wouldn't say you guys were committed to each other?
No.
Okay.
Just like flirting.
talking, you know, like
heavy flirting.
Yeah, heavy flirting.
Yeah. But it was like serious, but not like boyfriend girlfriend serious, you know?
Gotcha.
She wrote me a letter.
So were you devastated when she...
Nah, yeah. I mean, it was just
He didn't care.
yeah. Because I mean, if it was to get something serious at that time, it would have been a long distance relationship.
Yeah. And like I was moving to LA, so I wasn't gonna move with the intentions of being with him like every day, like moving in together and stuff like that. You know, it was just gonna be like we were gonna be closer.
Yeah.
We would have been like an hour and a half away as opposed to a 6-hour plane trip. So I got back together with my ex, and then we stopped talking, and then broke up with the ex, and then we started talking again.
Yep.
And I think that happened one more time before we finally like
Yeah.
got serious.
Who put their foot down? Was it you that you were over the ex, or was Leo like, we
Well-
got to stop this back and forth?
So what it was I was respectful about her situation. So when it kicked in, she came back to California.
No, I went to California for the first time. I had never been to California until that time. When me and my ex split up,
Yeah, you're right.
I was like, you know what? I'm
Yeah.
going we
So
started
this
talking
was-
again, but as friends. We were,
Yeah.
I kind of felt like a little bad that I kept doing that. So I was just like, all right, we did have a really good connection as friends, like even when we weren't talking. So I just kind of said like, I'm going to come to California. And we can meet up if you want, but it'll
See
be
how
as
this
friends.
feels.
Yeah.
So I had just got back from Japan. I had just bought my first car. I had just like started driving because being from New York, growing up in New York, you don't get your license till like I got mine at like 21.
I think it depends on where you live.
New York City.
No, I lived in New York and I got my license pretty early.
I mean,
But
I know
lived
people-
in like a residential area.
Oh,
so
okay.
We had parking.
Not where we from.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, you from Brooklyn.
Yeah, he bougie as hell.
But yeah, so I ended up getting my license at like 21, right? So I got back from Japan, and it was perfect timing, I think, because I had taken like 2 weeks off, I think it was, and she had and it wasn't even planned. She had simultaneously booked her trip to California. So me being a brand new driver, I drove up to LA from like northern San Diego. Being a brand new driver, I drove up to LA and we hung out for that weekend. Well, probably that. Yeah, it was the weekend.
The intentions were to hang out that night, I think.
Yep.
And so we went to Dave and Buster's on Hollywood Boulevard.
We saw Fast.
We saw Fast
Five?
Too Fast, Too Furious.
No,
or
it was
something?
Fast Five.
I don't know.
With Don Omar.
So we
it was
saw
Fast
that.
Five.
On Dave and Buster's, and we were just hanging out. And then I think it got really late, and I like felt bad that he was gonna have to drive all the way back. So I was like, you're my friend. Come to the hotel.
Yeah.
And he stayed that night. And I kind of like still had him like in the friend zone a little bit, because I think at that point I wasn't over my ex.
Yeah.
And I kind of like was like, I don't want to do anything that I probably shouldn't. And so I kind of just was like, all right, you can stay here. We can sleep in the same bed, but you're my friend. Don't touch me. Don't put your paws on me.
Bro, you got good self-control.
I'm not, but I respected that boundary, and
we would
Yeah,
go, we
we
were
just-
chill. And then did you leave the next day? I think you maybe,
I think we.
because I think your leave was up. I think those are small details.
Yeah.
But I think
He's rubbing off on you.
right.
But pretty much we the time we were there.
Oh, wait, I remember. So you went back because your leave was up. I
Yeah,
came
yeah.
at the end of your leave.
Oh, okay.
And then, no. You didn't have leave. You had leave the week after. And then I was like, okay, I kind of like felt more of a connection when I stood with him, and I ended up canceling my flight home and booked another week so that we could spend that week together because he had that week off. And then that was it from there.
Yeah,
we
where
connected
kicked off
and
relationship.
we spent the whole week together, and it just,
It felt right.
Yeah.
And that was in April of 2015. So it had been a couple of years of like back and forth friends and everything. And
So then it led to a long distance relationship.
then I went back to New York, and every month one of us would go back and forth. I think it was.
Yeah, I know. I remember I went to visit you for
It was like
Memorial
Day or something. So we would go back and forth, and then in
July.
July,
I think you had came for your birthday, and then I had it was vice
small
versa.
details, small details.
So yeah, you came to because both of our birthdays are in July. So
Yeah.
you came to visit California, and then I flew to New York.
Yeah.
back.
So then basically we decided in November that I was going to move to California. So I went from April to November. I was like, all right, I'm moving.
Moving in. Yeah.
Yeah, we're
And then I moved November 2015. We got married in March 2016.
yeah.
That's so crazy how we said it, because Travis and I, it kind of sounds just like our timeline.
yeah.
We were DMing from March, and then in November we got engaged and married the following March. It's almost the
that's
same
almost
exact
the
timeline.
It's like when you know it's right, and then you just
Wait, and it was 2015 you moved in? November?
yeah.
And married March 26th. That's exactly...
What
we
day
have
did you
the
get
sa-
married?
March 5th.
Oh, we got married March 16th.
Yeah.
But wow!
Yeah, it's
see?
close. It's
Ironic.
close.
So it's like the same exact timeline. That's so
Nice.
crazy.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, that's our story.
Okay. So how'd you end up back in New York?
Ask Leonardo
Yeah.
that one. How did we end up back here, Leonardo?
So both of our families are from, they're still in New York City. And I grew up close to my family. So it was like that FOMO, like we had family events going on and everything. And being in California, it was a 5-hour trip to get there. And,
We were
$500
also-
flight.
We were on our debt-free journey at that time, so we
Yeah.
kind of like had to say a no to a lot of things. So like people would have like family gatherings, and it was just like, we're on our death-free journey. Like we don't want to.
So yeah, we just got to the point where it was like, all right, I want to be closer to family. It means a lot to me. And
were you pregnant yet?
No.
Okay. So you moved here before you got pregnant?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we ended up selling about 90% of our stuff, and we road tripped from California to New York.
Yeah.
When was this?
What was
June?
it? The summer?
Yeah, June 2019.
Yeah, June 2019.
So that was June 2019, and we're here sitting in the house that they own already that fast. So congratulations, because that is just amazing. So I wanted to talk about the home buying process, not the process, but more so what led you to the decision. Do you have any regrets, or, why did you, I know you loved renting. So when I've been following her on Instagram, and she always found the cutest apartment.
Yeah.
She has a very minimalistic, stylish vibe that you loved.
Yeah.
So what made you decide that buying a house was the right move?
Honestly, like having a kid, like being pregnant was just, I just started to feel like I want to give my child like a backyard, and I want to be like not in an apartment. I don't know. I didn't mind it, and we were fine, like, because we didn't move here until Luca was like 10 months. Mm-hmm. So we were fine. But I don't know. It's just like, when you have a kid, it just feels more right to be in a house, which is like really silly, because the whole time I was renting, I had the exact opposite mindset. I'm like, you don't need that stuff. And you don't. It's not like make or break your family or your kid's life or anything, but it just felt like it would be nice, And we also moved a lot. And so I felt that with renting, we always felt like we had to go somewhere else, you know?
So this puts down roots.
Exactly, yeah. And that's not something, since we've been together, we've moved literally like every year. Like we've never like stayed in one spot. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, it's just something about it. Having Luca felt like it was the time to do that. And
it's funny that you said like before you always thought like you don't need a house, but then having a baby changes.
Yeah.
And I remember a couple of episodes I mentioned like, until you're in a situation, you don't know what you'll do.
Exactly.
Like, you could always change your mind.
Yeah. And you guys spoke about it recently about, wanting or thinking about moving out of the city.
And that's not a thought that came to me before, because, when we moved into our current place, Eli's a lot older.
No.
So just him having his own room, to me, that's an accomplishment.
Yeah.
But now thinking about another baby, it's like, damn, I want them to run outside in the yard and,
Or a third bedroom. But you're talking about New York City, 3-bedroom prices.
In a decent neighborhood.
And then also,
nice
we've gotten used to like a fully renovated kitchen.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Where are we going to find that we can afford it? So a lot of things come into perspective when you're adding like additional human beings into your life. Yeah. So what would you say are some like pros and cons between renting and buying or owning?
Well, for one, renting is a lot. It depends on where you live, what you rent. But from our experience being here and our renting experience, it's a lot cheaper because there's just so much that goes into owning a home. Like you have to fix everything yourself, and that gets expensive.
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned that, because I bet you people are home gasping like, because whenever we tell people like how much we pay in rent, their first thing is, that's a mortgage. That's a mortgage.
And it just does not work like that, sadly.
I think for me personally, I don't regret, that we have a home.
Yeah, I don't regret it either.
But I think that's like that's a big misconception with like buying and renting, where it's like, there's nothing wrong with renting. Like, it's perfectly fine to, grow up renting. You don't need to buy a home. But
what do you say to the people who think like, oh, our rent is the same as mortgage? What's the other misconception that's within that?
I think it's the hidden fees that come with buying a home. Yeah, like sure it is a mortgage, but on top of that mortgage, again, you got to make price changes to, or account for prices of home fixes. All the tools you'll need to do home repairs, or even if you want to hire that out, you have to buy. You hire contractors, painters, whatever it is.
It's not cheap.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
It's like when you have your own home, you also get this like, you get this feeling that you want to do all these things to it. You know, like I want to paint, I want to do this. When you're in your own apartment, it's not as like, I don't know. That feeling is not so much because it's not yours. But when it's yours, you're like, oh, I'm going to be here for a while. Let me do this. Let me do that. And then you end up spending so much money.
The story Leo told us about the water pump broke my heart.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That was a mess.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. I'm not a handy guy at all. I'm not going to say I'm not.
Yeah, I heard him say it, right? It ain't just me.
I'm more handy than she gives me credit for, but I'm not Leo level handy.
Nah.
So
I could put together IKEA furniture. That's the extent of my handiness.
So,
but he's not going to be sitting here like replacing the pump that's 20 feet on the ground or whatever, you know, like that stuff that
you need to hire out.
But yeah, the pros and cons of buying a house versus renting is like, with buying a house, you know, you do have that foundation where like you'll be here for about a minimum, you know, people would stay there for like 5 years plus. And, you know, you're putting money into, you know, something that would hopefully increase in value and you can sell back. And then versus renting, you have that mobility, you know, like your lease is up in a year, you can either renew it or leave. But you don't have to worry about those hidden fee costs of maintenance because you have, you know, your landlord or whatever it is. So, you know.
Do you feel like that idea of it's an investment, it's gonna go up in value, like if that's overinflated, like we think we're gonna make so much money off of houses?
Definitely, because you don't know that. Like you can't predict. Like a bit, like I guess the extreme I think of in my head is like you could get a new job. Like, and you would need to be relocated, right? You can't guarantee in that moment, that year, your house is going to be, you know, worth more. Like you could have this out in a bad market and then you're screwed because now you're losing money. So you just can't guarantee anything, like regardless of what you're investing in, you can never guarantee that when you need to sell it, it's going to be worth more. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is that all that maintenance you're putting into it, that's taking away from any profit that you're going to get at the end of it. But a lot of people don't remember what they put into it, or they don't really think about these little things that they had to maintain or whatever. Like us, for example, we spent about 14 grand within the first like 3 months on just things that we needed.
And how many months of rent would have that been?
Like a year and a half or something, you know? So it's like you don't, I mean, we will hope we won't have to put that much, you know, and within the next couple of years. But it's like those things you just have to be mindful of. And it's really easy to say like, okay, I bought my house for 200 and then I sold it in 10 years for 300. I made 100,000. Like you didn't, because you still paid your mortgage. You know, you still put maintenance into the house. You still bought things you probably wouldn't have if it was your apartment. You filled spaces you might have not needed to if you were in a smaller apartment. So
like extra furniture.
Yeah. So there's just these things that we have to think about when it comes, because it's not buying versus renting. It's not just, this is my mortgage, this is my rent. Like it's not as simple as that. And you just have to really want to be in a house, you know? You can't just, it's not just like letting people say, oh, you're wasting your money renting, and then you jump into buying a house. You know, you got to really want it for it to be worth it. And you have to have money saved, because if you don't, like this little water problem would have been, if we didn't have anything saved, it would have been like a huge problem for us, you know? But I don't know. Yeah,
all these things to go into more debt.
To get these things fixed. And some people would just like not get it fixed, you know? Those are like the hidden things with home ownership that we don't really think about.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I think real estate is a business, and like being in America, it operates as a business. So prices fluctuate on homes. So again, like Brittany had mentioned, you never know if your home value is going to appreciate that year or depreciate. It's literally just
you never know what's going to happen, and so
in the market,
it's just not as easy as saying, "Oh yeah, I'm going to sell it and I'll make a profit." Like, because you might not.
Yeah, definitely. One question I had as like couples into buying houses: did you have something on your like, my house must have this, or did you have something and that y'all had to compromise on, or like location, or like 2-car garage versus 1, or anything like that?
Honestly, not really. I wouldn't say so. I think we were both pretty like flexible with what we wanted, and the time in which we bought you kind of had to be flexible because everyone was like gunning for everything that was good. It was hard. Like when we bought a house.
What did COVID impact that?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Because interest rates were a lot lower, so everyone was
Trying to buy.
and so even now, still it's very competitive. People are putting in offers like above asking price, and like that's not something we were trying to do. So, so it was definitely hard to buy in the market that we were buying in. And it's funny because a few of the things that I said I wanted, just like I didn't want a ranch style. I wanted like 2 stories. I wanted a 3-bed, 2-bath. We didn't end up getting any of that.
So, yeah, I was actually.
I was gonna say, isn't this a ranch?
Yeah.
I was actually surprised. I asked Brittany like 3 to 4 times during our process, like, "You sure this is the house?" Because like this is literally everything you said we don't want. But I mean, I think it was when we first came to visit, it just gave off that like homey vibe, like that cozy vibe.
Yeah, when I came, and it was funny because I actually found it. Our realtor didn't find it, but I saw it and I was like, I really like this. And so I went to go see it and I was like, oh, I really like this.
Yeah.
And I just kind of like
When
really
I
liked
walk
it. And we
in
went
here,
for it.
like obviously now you've put touches on it,
Yeah.
but it feels like your home.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what I
it
liked
feels
about
like
it. And we were so used to like all the apartments that we rented, they were always like new. And so we were used to like that modern lifestyle. And I think that's why Leo was like confused when I like this house. He was like, this is nothing like we've ever rented. This is like completely like not your normal style. But I kind of like felt like when I was a kid, I used to go to camp, and I've always loved that like cabin, like, you know, vibe, that farmhouse kind of. And I don't know, I just like.
But this is like a modern twist on it. I
Yeah.
guess the way you've decorated
Yeah.
it and stuff, like it looks good. I don't think it looks like an old house.
Yeah.
No.
It's like a little modern farmhouse.
But
That's
like
what I'm
lived
going
in
for.
and cozy.
Yeah.
And
And that's just what I liked about it. And I like that it wasn't. Now I appreciate that it's not 2 stories because it's easier to clean, and then we don't have to worry about Luca running up and downstairs. So I don't know. I just really liked it when we came, even though it wasn't what we pictured ourselves buying. We went for it. It was a little bit. We offered a little bit below asking, which was like unheard of the time that we bought.
Market.
Yeah.
And we just went for it.
So would you say the best advice would be open to not getting exactly what you want?
I would say it depends on when you're buying, I guess, and also where. Other places may not be as competitive, but I think the only advice that I could really give for like buying a home is to make sure you have a good realtor. Yeah. Make sure you have a good realtor.
How do you know who's a good realtor?
I don't, that's a good question.
I think
Well, everyone's thinking it. So did you guys have a good realtor?
Since you mentioned it.
No. I mean, even then, I think if you take it a step further, I would say do your own research, because at the end of the day, you can't really depend on your realtor.
And they're trying to make money at the end of the day.
So it's like, I mean, do your own research.
I would say try and find a realtor like word of mouth, like if you know someone that bought a house and if they would like recommend their person. It was also a really hard time to buy again, so I'm sure everyone
Was it during?
had a lot of theirs
during COVID? Was it?
It was like during
a year into it, because it was like April. Well, we saw the house in December and we closed around April, which is a long time to close for a house, but I think it was sort of the norm for that time
period.
Definitely.
But it was like towards the tail end of COVID, because it was end of 2020 into early 2021.
Yeah.
But
now, in hindsight, is there something you would go back and do differently in the home buying process, or any regrets that you have?
Do more research.
Yeah, I would say having a person who, because like, we're from the Bronx, we've never been through this, but we don't know much of anything about a home.
Yeah. And
so I would just suggest to maybe have someone who understands houses in general and the home buying process and inspections and stuff like that.
Did you ever feel like people you worked with knew that you weren't as knowledgeable and maybe try to take advantage of that?
I never thought about it. I mean, it's not impossible, but I didn't think about it that way. I just think like they may assume that we know more
exactly.
Not give you enough information.
Yeah.
It's just like, I feel, for us, at least with our process, I feel like if we didn't ask the question, it wouldn't get addressed. So that's why I'm saying, like, if you know the right questions to ask during the process, you're gonna get that answer. Because I mean, at the end of the day, as a realtor, I'm sure they have some sort of obligation to, you know, disclose all information regarding the house itself. So it's just a matter of, you know, knowing what to ask, what to look for. Because we did 2 or 3 walkthroughs around the house, and when we first saw it, you know, we were just like, oh, we were in awe because, you know, we're like, you know, this is the house, you know.
And you kind of miss out on things because you're so excited.
Yeah, and then, as you know, we had mentioned, it's just as soon as we move in, it's like, oh man,
one thing after the other that we didn't know.
Yeah, we got to, you know, our water just busted. We need to pay for that. Oh, we need to clean our vents,
the roof, and all
we need
stuff.
to change out the insulation. So it's just, like, just when you think you're ready to buy a house, just do that extra research.
I would say if you feel like you need your hand held during the process, like, find somebody to hold your hand. Because it's a big investment.
Yeah.
And if you don't know anything about buying a house, especially for first time home buyers, if you don't have like parents that are like able to guide you through that, definitely just find someone that can help you, that knows homes. And like that should be like your realtor and your inspector, but it never hurts to have like an extra person who, like, you know, is 100% on your side and not just trying to sell you a
bias.
house. Yeah.
And Brittany, as like, you know, you are well versed in finances, right?
Oh, so I dabble.
So when it comes to money, what would you say to a young couple that's they want to buy a house? What would you say is like a good safety net for them in terms of like being prepared financially for a house?
I mean, I would definitely just say first step is make sure you have at least 6 months worth of emergency, 6 months in your emergency fund.
Okay.
I would say at the very least, because
what do you mean
6
months of emergency?
So basically, your monthly expenses times 6.
Okay.
So not your income necessarily. I mean, you could go as far as that, you know, if you have that, like, the means to save that much. Basically, save as much as you can, like, because it's expensive. And you just never know what's going to come up, and you don't want to be in a position where something came up and you just don't have the money. So, like,
your mortgage.
Make sure you have a lot in savings. It depends on where you live too, obviously. So I won't say like a specific number because that's all, you know, relative, but definitely 6 months worth of emergencies, because if something comes up and it costs like 10 grand, like, you want to make sure that you have that and you don't want to go into debt for that. So yeah, save money is like, if you think you have enough, just keep going.
More.
Just a little more. Just a little more.
Got it. That's, we need to work on that, babe. All right. So now I want to shift into like a different topic. So when I reconnected with you was because of all your financial posts. Your Instagram was all about being this young couple living out in California and decided like, I want to get out of debt. I think you were saving money for a trip to go to Italy.
Yeah.
And then you were like,
throwback.
Why am I going to Italy when I have debt? I'm going to use this money for Italy instead and start getting out of debt, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then, you know, you inspired so many people. Your platform grew to like 10,000 followers, right?
Yeah.
Inspired us.
Yeah, you inspired us, definitely. But now your page is not really all about money and finances.
Nope.
So can you
It's a Luca fan page.
Basically.
So yeah, just tell us a little bit about that shift.
I think I didn't start my Instagram with the intentions of being like super educational, right? Like that was never my goal, sharing. And I didn't, what I did was share our lives. You know, I shared our lives revolving around us paying off debt. And so that's how it kind of got started, with like people following because they were doing the same thing or because they wanted to do the same thing. And so I just shared us. Like, I just shared our debt and our money and what we were doing financially. And then when Luca came, he became us. And so so I wasn't as focused like intensely on, like, we still budget, we still do all that, but it wasn't my main priority anymore. And so it just felt kind of weird to keep sharing things that kind of like, it sort of became just like a part of my natural life, like in the background, budgeting and everything. And that happens when you do it for so long, that it just felt weird to just keep sharing it when
It felt forced.
yeah, and it's like so much of my life now revolves around Luca, and that was my priority now, and that's what I wanted to spend my time thinking about and doing and talking about, and so it just changed. It was also a weird time when we had Luca because we were in the middle of the pandemic, and so it just felt weird to continue to share financial stuff during that time as well.
Especially with so many people were affected.
Yeah, and so I think that is when the shift sort of began, and then when Luca came, it was just like
So when you say so many people were affected, do you feel like talking about money was something hard to talk about?
Yeah,
because we both, we were, both grateful enough to
we were both lucky enough to have not been affected, and so while other people were losing their jobs and like taking doing whatever they could to pay their bills or not, we weren't affected by it. And so it kind of felt like our lives didn't change and everyone else's did. And to continue sharing us paying off debt and saving money was kind of like, a read the room moment,
Okay. Like we could barely get groceries. We don't need to know that your emergency fund is fully funded.
Exactly. It was just like, what's the point?
Fuck you, Polanco.
Right.
Yeah, weird.
But that's
how we felt.
That's just how I felt. And like, understandably so, like it just wasn't the time. And then it just didn't feel right anymore. Like, I don't know. It just didn't, I don't know. Like, I just didn't feel, I think if I had approached my account and where I wanted to be educational, it would have been a little different because I could have kept on doing that. But
and change that perspective.
Yeah. It just wasn't my intent. And I'm the type of person where if my heart's not in it, I'm not going to do it because it's fake. So why, So
the purpose was to share your life and you're still doing that.
Yeah.
It's just
but now it's just different. Now it just looks different.
It's not a financial literacy 101 account.
Right. And there's plenty of those and they're all great. But that's not I'm not going to do that if it doesn't feel like me. So
definitely. That totally makes sense. I have kind of like a how I feel about that perspective. Specifically revolving, our lives weren't affected by COVID financially, so I didn't really want to share the good details in our life. But is that really fair? Like,
it's not. And if it was someone else telling me, like, I don't want to share anything because I feel weird sharing, I would tell them, like, it's still important to, it's still important to be proud of yourself and to have support for the progress you're making. But for me, I was just kind of like, I don't know.
Because it's not like you're like, haha, look at me and my job and my money.
Right.
It's more so, and there's a lot of people, like Travis and I luckily didn't lose our jobs either. Like there's a lot of people going through those same things. Yeah. So I feel like you should have been able to share your experience and it still would have been relatable to many people in a tasteful way.
Definitely. And I do think that there are people that still did that. But I think it was just that in combination with being pregnant and it just not being my life, like my complete life anymore. Like when we were getting out of debt, like that was my life. Like, I was all I thought about all the time. But then COVID hit and then that was all I could think about. And then we were also pregnant and that was all I could think about. And my account, I think, just was our life. And when it wasn't 100% focused on finance anymore, it just didn't feel right to continue to share it. So
okay. Well, at least you stood true to yourself.
Yeah.
What you were expecting. It kind of reminds me of the whole idea of not being able to talk about money during the pandemic.
No.
I actually had a little side conversation with Leo about how we have this podcast because being young couple from New York City, being married, happily married, that's like not seen in the media. Like it's not out there. It's not in the forefront, right? And it's kind of, I feel like whenever I share things about our life, that we have people like, oh, it must be nice.
Yeah.
Or like those types of things. But I feel like it's important to show that there are happy marriages that come from where we come from in our culture.
And aren't perfect.
Not that we're not perfect, right?
Word.
Because social media tends to also have a false perception of perfection. Have you noticed that in mothering?
Yeah.
Because you're sharing now about motherhood. So have you felt that like guilt of like oversharing or maybe not seeming relatable?
Yeah. I guess like when I share motherhood, I don't always share good parts. Like I do share the hard parts, like with the sleep, for example. Like I do share those kinds of things. But I think sometimes what I share can maybe come off as a little like toxic positivity. But just because that's the type of person I am, where like I still see the mostly good part of things, and I genuinely love and enjoy motherhood. And so, yeah, I feel like sometimes that is not as relatable to everyone, I guess. And I feel like it's more common nowadays to be relatable in a sense where you're sharing the hard stuff. And I still do that, but I think, I don't know, sometimes I just feel like now there's really a big focus on everything that's hard, you know,
Everything
and all the
that's
negative,
hard.
which rightfully so. I mean, we do want to be able to be open about that so people know
And
that
the
it's not
truth
all,
is not.
it's not all like rainbows and butterflies, but I think there also needs to be more people sharing the positive stuff too, like what you were saying, like I guess about money and stuff,
Right?
but
it's
it is
not all bad.
It's not. And I think when you constantly see that and hear that, you can kind of, especially if you're going through it, like you can then like kind of sulk in that negativity. And then seeing people that genuinely love motherhood can be nice sometimes, like refreshing. Like,
Yeah, definitely. What was I gonna say? And I lost my train of thought. With motherhood. Oh, something I saw. So there's this comedian that I follow, Jess Hilarious. I don't know if you've ever seen her videos. She's like an Instagram comedian.
it sounds really familiar. But
She's been on Wallin' Out.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But she has this skit, and it's like Black mothers have an attitude for no reason, right? And it's funny. And it's like the kid's like, Ma, and she's constantly like, what? And it's like this negative attitude towards, and it's, of course, I've been there. I've had my moments where I react to Eli and I'm like, okay, I need to go apologize, or why did I have an attitude when I said that? But what I noticed in the comments of that video, everyone was like, that's me, that's me, that's how I am, that's how I mother. And it's like, are we saying this is okay? Like, when do we say, like, this is how I am at times because it's how I was raised, but it's not okay? Like, it scares me that our kids are still now in that same cycle of, like, being basically verbally abused by their parents.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that clip we saw earlier today about someone saying, I will never beat my kids because it's just something that's been passed down from like slavery and slave masters to the slaves, and then the slaves to their kids, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I feel like even when I mention that I don't beat Eli, I get eyes like, he doesn't get hit? Like, no.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, even like, parenting is hard, period. So it's like, because for lack of better terms, I feel like it is okay to like get upset throughout the day. Because even like we had this conversation not too long ago where it's like, I do get upset throughout the day, and I mean, and even Brittany does, I'm sure. But
Everyone
it's always
does. That's not like you're never.
But then at the end of the day, as long as at the end of the day, you. And I do it like literally whenever I do get upset that day.
He tells on himself.
At the end of the day, I'm just like,
he's like,
man, I feel bad that I got upset at him.
He was telling me I got mad at him earlier.
Because every time like he goes down for the night, it's just I'm like, I want to wake him up because
like, that's your guy.
Yeah, that's my guy.
Yeah.
But and I feel like that's probably common with mothers, parents, like just parents in general. Like it's okay to be upset.
Yeah, but it's like, where do you draw that line where it's like, it's okay and it's funny, I'm not going to change, or I'm not going to feel apologetic for it.
Or they're just kids. Like, that's just how it is. They'll be fine.
Right.
I got yelled at all the time and I'm fine.
Right.
Are we fine?
Are we?
Yeah. Some therapy bills.
It's just like, it's just a human emotion, It's like, but as long as it's not, reacted on, I guess I should say, is like, or
what I think, but what I think Stephanie is getting at is that, like, I think we're still normalizing that behavior.
Yeah.
The extreme behavior,
Yeah.
where we're still normalizing that.
And it's normal that it happens.
Yeah.
But it's not a pattern that you want to be repeating all the time.
Yeah.
And it's something we should be working on actually unlearning.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's like, it's because at the end of the day, you know, they're little humans.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's asking, and obviously they don't know better.
Mm-hmm.
But you're asking yourself to essentially remove an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Or
That's not at all. That's not at all what
saying.
you're
But I get what
yeah,
you're
because
saying.
like
You can't be.
it's normal to get upset in a situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
But how
But
you, how
you know
you
how
react.
at the
Yeah.
end-
Okay. Yeah.
You know how at the end of the night you
Yeah.
have that realization like, oh, I guess that some people don't have that. Like, it's just like,
yeah.
that's just how I am. That's just the, oh, well, he should have
Nah.
never annoyed me in this moment.
Yeah, it's okay.
You get what
Now
I'm
I get what you're
saying?
saying.
You
Yeah,
should have
yeah.
never spilled the milk.
Yeah. See, so I think it shouldn't be viewed as something negative as long as you have that realization where, man, I got upset. You know, and he's just a kid. You know, he doesn't know better.
I feel like another thing is people don't realize like our kids are mimicking exactly what we do.
Yeah.
So then if they're at school yelling at kids or being verbally like, you know, abusive to other children, and then you're like, I don't know where they get that from. From you.
Yeah. Word.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know. The reason I brought that up because it reminded me of the positivity, like the toxic positivity. It's true. We have to be honest and open about when our kids push our buttons, right?
Yeah.
But we also have to share the good things because then we're going to normalize like parenting is this big headache 24/7 and that we have to yell at our kids and beat our kids, which I absolutely 100% don't agree with. So
No.
I don't want to feel bad when I'm sharing the good things.
Right. No. Yeah. And that definitely goes hand in hand with what we're talking about. Because it shouldn't be. And like, again, like you can't, like when you just see that negativity all the time, like you just dwell in it. And it's like, no, I like to be able to share Luca and tell everyone like I love him so much, you know? And I feel like sometimes people can look at that and be like, oh, she's so annoying. Like she's.
So what do you think about like our culture has normalized that, right? So
Normalize which part?
Normalize parents, mothers especially saying, you know, parenting is hard. You know, why I lost my train of thought. But basically it's become normal to say.
And I feel like there's a purpose for it, right? Because what ends up happening is if everything online is all positive, then a mom has a baby and is stressed, doesn't know what she thinks I'm doing something wrong. It's me, the word, like I'm not meant for motherhood when it's not true because so many people have similar struggles. So I get the need to have the honesty, the raw honesty, the one that doesn't look so pretty.
Yeah.
But then now it's becoming, if you're having a good time in parenting, oh, actually, I shared like a note, like I write notes in Eli's lunch every day. And in one of my posts, I shared it and my friend reposted it and someone commented, oh, mothers like her are so annoying.
Mothers that love their child. Yeah, where it's like,
you bitch.
And I've never seen anything like that growing up. Like I didn't no knock against my mom. Like I'm sure she would have done it, but I've never seen other kids where they had like nice notes from their parents. That's fucking sweet. That's like a nice, that's a nice way to start your day.
yeah.
And it doesn't mean I'm a better parent than anyone. Some kids won't even appreciate it.
Yeah.
Like if Eli was throwing them out and like not mentioning it, I would stop.
Like, all right, I'm done.
Right? But he literally talks about how his friends are excited to read it.
Aw, that's so sweet.
Eli, you've known, I've told you, every year gets better with him in terms of his behavior. And I feel like it's like words of affirmation every day. And this was the first report card we ever had that every teacher said his behavior has been great. We're like, you sure?
So academically, Eli's amazing.
Yes.
He's on top of it. But we always walk into like parent-teacher conferences like, oh, now we got to hear about the behavior. We're never worried about like the reading or the math. And everyone's like, oh, no, he's doing great. But Eli.
Sure?
Eli. Our Eli. Yeah, he's great.
And he doesn't have any malicious intent, but he has a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And being very smart, not because he's my baby, but
Because he's your baby.
But it tends to happen in classes where there's a kid who's super smart, they get bored. And then if you're bored with a lot of energy, he would call out, he would try to correct the teacher. Or if another student says something wrong, he kind of felt like it was his job to correct them.
Tell them that story about when they were still like remote learning and he went to the camera.
Oh, so the teacher was teaching hybrid, or she was recording her lesson so she could post it for the kids that were at home. And he felt like the teacher was doing something wrong. And she kept telling him, no, Eli, it's okay. And he got up and went to the camera and was like, she's spelling that wrong. So things like that. Like, he wasn't beating up kids or had an attitude, but just...
Did she spell it wrong, though?
So she did spell it wrong, but she was having the kids spell it how they hear it.
Oh, okay.
And at that stage of development, it's okay. Like, I think they spelled read just R-E-D or something like that. Yeah. So she was like, oh, good. That was a really good attempt. Like, nice try at spelling it. Because at that age, you're happy if a kid spells read that way. You're like, okay, I get it. Yeah. But since Eli is advanced and knows how to spell read, he was upset.
And he walked up to the camera and was like, that's not how you do it.
She's lying.
Exactly.
That's funny.
But this year, I honestly feel like those notes, like if I'm telling him how proud I am of him or how kind he is.
Or make good decisions.
Reminding him to make good decisions every day. I feel like it's impacting his behavior. Like, I don't know. I ain't a scientist.
That's probably definitely contributing at least.
Right? And it might not work for everybody's kid. And I'm not saying, if you don't leave notes for your kid, you're a bad mom. But also don't call me annoying for doing it.
What does Eli say? Don't yuck my yum.
Do what works for you.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And I don't know. I think like sometimes I'll say like stuff about Luca, like very positive things. And like I've gotten several messages where people are just like, I really appreciate you sharing this. And I can tell that you genuinely, everyone loves their kid. But like, I'm not trying to say that as in like other people love their kids less. But like, I can tell you genuinely enjoy being a mother and mothering. And like, that makes me happy because it is hard. And I share that too. But at the end of the day, like you also have to be able to say it's hard, but like, it's amazing too. So
I feel like when anybody messages me on like, oh my God, good job with him or something, I'm very conscious of that too. And I'm like, oh, but it's been hard, or he needs to do this. Like, I feel like I'm always like, we're not perfect.
It's like a disclaimer.
It's like a disclaimer. Anytime someone tells me, I remind them like, listen.
So then,
it took a lot to get to this point.
It took a lot to get here, and I still have my moments. And but I feel like it's that fear of seeming too perfect or like, not relatable.
Yeah, I think that definitely is a big thing. Like wanting to, and I think that's a big reason why people share such negative things now. It's like wanting to feel relatable. And like you do want to feel like other people can relate to your struggles. Like that's important.
Because if it's more popular that people are hating being parents or hating on parents, then you're going to just add to the conversation. Like, yeah, my motherfucker of a kid over there was doing this today. So now you're like, oh yeah, come into the club. We're all here. But then you have people like Brittany is like, well, I love my baby, and
he's actually kind of cool.
He's cool, and it's like, well, you stay outside the club.
Right.
What's something so stupid that I kind of felt this same feeling for? You know how everybody hates daylight savings because like it's super dark early?
Bruh, I was like, ooh, 6 o'clock bedtime.
I like that the mornings are brighter. So I'm like, I kind of like this. But it was hard to admit that to anyone.
I know, because everyone's posting reels like, daylight savings ruined everything. I was like,
seasonal depression.
It got me an hour earlier on bedtime, so I'm all right with it.
So it applies to anything. Like if you have a different perspective on something, it could automatically be toxic positivity, even though.
And two things can be true. Parenting can be tough and rewarding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And both.
It's just balance, I guess. It's nobody's like, what is the word I'm thinking of? Like no one owes anyone to post like certain things, to post positive and negative. Like, you post what you want at the end of the day, but
at the end of the day, it's social media. It's not.
Yeah.
Like,
you don't owe anyone.
Take that with a grain of salt. It's like it's not real life.
Yeah,
Obviously,
I always describe it as a highlight reel.
yeah.
So you're not gonna always post the days where you're like crying over something
Word.
Luca did. You're gonna post, oh, you know, I love it. I'm loving on my baby.
And I think that's one thing too that I feel like still it's not 100% clicking, where it's with general population where they think social media is real life, you know, and it's not. It's like you said, it's a highlight. It's
and what's crazy is the same generation that was like defending like video games don't impact us. Like we know how to play a video game and like not go shoot people up, you know? But now we don't know how to look at somebody's Instagram and be like, okay, this isn't real life. Like, where's the disconnect? Like, we should be able to apply that same thinking that we did when we were little kids playing Call of Duty as we do to social media. Like, have that understanding, like, this isn't real.
Yeah. Just because I post, you know, Luca being all happy and giddy and following, you know, instructions doesn't mean that that's how he always is, you know? And that's something that should be, you know, like I said, taken with a grain of salt. Like,
and that it could be true sometimes. Because another thing is people say, oh, she's not really that happy.
Yeah, that's one thing that gets me. So it's like, maybe
or like even with relationship with couples, any happy couple, everyone says, oh, behind closed doors, I bet you they're... No, not necessarily. Maybe they obviously no couple's perfect.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are some couples that are really happy and their problems are not that serious. Right. People assume like, oh, he must be her ass, or she must be crazy, or she doesn't actually cook. Or like, you know, people make these crazy stories in their head to like bash people who seem happy.
That's it. Like, I think, and it sucks, but like I definitely think a big part of our culture now is just like bashing people and like trying to find like the negative and everything. And it's just like that sometimes I don't even want to be on social media because I'm just like, I don't know. It's like, you know, we can just be happy and be nice to each other, which is annoying, right?
And listen, and there's certain things that it's human nature to be judgy sometimes. Definitely. But like I tell Travis, I'm like, we'll talk shit amongst each other without hurting anybody's feelings.
Like
online.
I was telling you guys before we started this, like I always say like the difference between people who are in happy relationships or unhappy, or maybe they're single. Like if me and Steph see something, we'll talk about it amongst each other. Like, oh, did you see Brittany, what she posted today? Like, but then we won't go under your page and say, oh, you ain't shit. But there's a difference. It's a funny example, but it's true. We'll talk amongst each other.
Yeah.
We're not on social. Or
even your group chat. Yeah. Send it to your friends and like debate it.
Yeah. I think it's funny because we were having the same. It's like not everything needs to be said. You know, it's like if you have a thought on like someone's post, it's just like why? Like if you know it's something negative or it can be portrayed as negative, like just keep it to yourself. Like why do you need to blast them about it? It's just I don't know.
If they didn't ask,
word.
Sometimes like when I see like big blogs that are intended to share like celebrity gossip, I'm like, I guess that's different because they're not directly talking to people, and it's like it's kind of like a public chat. It's like when AOL had chat rooms. People are in the comments like debating things. Even that I wouldn't do, but that's more. But when you're talking directly to people and like feeling better than, I find that so crazy.
Well, so where do you draw the line, right? Because now we're in this podcasting space and we need content. We need to talk about these things.
Yeah.
So where do we draw the line? Because we're on one hand, we're saying not everything needs reaction or commentary, but we're building something off of that.
That kind of reminds me of like what I was saying regarding Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith. Like people are like, why does she need to say that? Because she has a talk show and that's what she wants to share. She's sharing her life. And why are y'all listening to it if y'all don't want to hear people's, you know, whatever. So I feel like we have made a decision to share our lives, and we have to understand that people are going to comment. I still think people shouldn't say negative things unless they feel like it goes against their... So like, for example, I know we've been talking about some things that are very divided, like colorism, the fact that I'm Dominican, but I identify as Black. I know that's a divided issue. the homophobic comments that the baby gave. I know that when we talk about those things, there are going to be people disagreeing in the comments. And there's a way for people to disagree with me without feeling like they're directly trying to disrespect me.
Right.
And
I think that's the line. It's like you can have a disagreement and talk about things and not agree on the same topic, but like if you can tell when someone is purposely trying to hurt you by what they're saying.
There's a difference between like constructive criticism where it's like, hey, you know, great podcast, but you know, I don't know, whatever, you know, fix your hair next time. I don't know.
Or what was it? She seems unbearable.
Yeah, someone says she seems insufferable.
Oh, yeah.
Or she sounds so self-righteous. But mind you, like
that's something you think in your head and like just move along. You know?
But and we luckily, you and I, at least we haven't blown up in a sense where it has impacted us. Like we laugh at it, we ignore it.
She has to talk me down sometimes. I'm like, I want to respond.
I'm like, babe, really? Like you're gonna don't. I always tell him don't respond negative. I'll respond like
very light
or like sarcastic.
Cancel culture hasn't came after y'all yet.
Not yet.
I gotta go check my old tweets.
But I feel like eventually we might get overwhelmed with the negativity. Who knows? We're not there yet. No. But we do know we're exposing ourselves to it.
Yeah.
That's the thing too. Is like at this day and age with like social media and everything, it's just it's inevitable at that point. Like there's gonna be someone out there who's just, I guess, miserable that just you know, what is it? Twitter warriors? Nah.
Keyboard warriors?
Keyboard warriors.
Yeah, keyboard warriors. Yeah, it's just, it's inevitable, I guess. But again, it's where you got to draw the line is like constructive criticism versus just straight negativity or hate.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference. Like we're not just talking just to talk. We usually have criticism with a solution or what we wish that person would have done better. Yeah. It's never just like, you ain't shit, go die, and then move on to the next topic.
And I think it is healthy to have disagreements, like, and discuss it or even debate it. So it's like, you know, that should be normalized. Just disagreeing, but at the same time being respectful about each other's opinion, especially with everything that's going on.
I'm also gonna treat it kind of like how I would treat children in a classroom. I'm never gonna get into a power struggle with a child because they don't know their limits. And then if I'm gonna be fighting with a 5-year-old, right? So I feel like people who talk that way online are like that. They're not gonna know when to stop. Their purpose is to debate you. So I'm never gonna get into a power struggle with a stranger online. If someone poses like a question that I feel like is interesting and can lead to a good discussion, I'll respond. The minute I feel like they're just trying to attack me, I just stop responding.
Word.
I don't have to say anything else.
And I think that's perfect. It's like,
I don't have to say, no, like, Timmy, go sit in the corner. I could just be like, you need 5 minutes and I'm going to go. So I treat, it's kind of like the teacher in me. I'm like, okay, I'm done.
You've taught it, Timmy?
No, I totally made that name up. I made that name up so nobody comes for me.
sit your ass down, Timmy.
No, I think honestly a big difference, like, what you guys were saying, like you discuss other people and like, you know, like the pop culture kind of stuff. I think a big difference between like what you guys are doing on a podcast is that if you watch enough, like, you know that you guys are like genuinely like compassionate people. And I think that's where things like TikTok make people a little bit more like angry because they don't know you.
Yeah.
Like they don't.
The short clip.
Yeah. And
out of context.
Yeah.
Right. And like with my Instagram, I feel like the people on there are people who have known me and they know the type of person I am. So I can like say these things and I honestly do not get a lot of negativity on my account, like at all. It's very rare. But I feel like it's because they all know me, who I am as a person. And when you have that type of platform, when people know you're compassionate people, I think it's just nice, you know. You can be yourself and feel comfortable to be yourself. Whereas TikTok, which I will not get into, like I will not start posting stuff there because like people are just, I don't know, it just grows so fast that no one knows you from like a week before when you posted something nice, or you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's very rare that the same person is coming back for different topics that blow up.
Yeah.
You know, it's always some new
random person.
set
Like
of
they
eyes.
just
The
find
way
you,
the
comment,
algorithm
and they'll never
is.
see you again.
Yeah, exactly. It's so strange.
And so it's easier to be like, you know, to assume things about you guys, or
because their perspective is just on those
Exactly.
5 seconds, 10 seconds.
yeah. And that's the
Nothing
hard thing
else.
about social media and like being like being attacked on social media. It's like they don't know you. So they'll say whatever they feel, and it's just how it is.
That's so funny because I feel like a lot of times I'll be like, but I don't understand this. And you always kind of will be like, well, maybe X, Y, and Z. Like trying to see something from someone else's point of view.
Yeah.
And we do it to each other. Like we're trying to check each other if we're being judgy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good approach though. Like view both sides of the argument before it's like you can't just be determined on that one point of view.
Yeah, and I think you guys do a good job at that. Like where, you know, like your last episode where you were kind of like, two things can be true. Like I can feel compassion for this situation while also not understanding this.
Yeah.
And I think that's like overall a good quality to have, and being like in a public eye. So when people get to know you, on Instagram and YouTube versus Twitter or TikTok, where it's just like quick, one-off, like, you know, responses. And
do you feel like between the two of you, I meant to ask this in the icebreaker, but now it kind of flows again.
Yeah.
Like, is there something you learned about each other, like after moving in together, that you didn't know before? And then you kind of worked through it?
You look like you know one.
Nah.
He said, I've been waiting for this.
Right. I got it right here.
You know what I wanted to say was we learn like little things about each other even to this day, where it's we spend so much time together where like it's just inevitable to learn something new about each other, because not only are we evolving or learning new things, like the world around us is evolving. So we both might have different perspectives about a certain topic that sometimes we discuss. So I think the main key is I'm very open-minded. So, and it back to the point where it's like you have to be able to see both sides of that argument. Because again, two things can be true.
Yeah.
So, what about you?
Well, he be leaving his clothes everywhere.
Oh, come on.
I didn't think we were gonna do that, but no. I think I learned moving in with Leo that he was a lot more, I guess, kind and more giving than I thought he would be. I remember this one time we were in a hotel. I don't think we had moved in together, and it was like tax season or something. He was on the phone with his mother, and he was like, "All right, I'll send you the whole thing that I got on my whole return." And I was like, wow, the generosity.
She owed me some money.
And so, yeah, I think being around Leo more and moving in with him, I realized that he's a very generous person, very kind person. What else? What are you? No. He's also very hard-headed. You wouldn't think that, but Leonardo is like defensive.
Really?
Yes.
I don't get those vibes.
Stop the cap.
He is defensive and he's hard-headed. And I'm like, I can be a little hard-headed, but like, I'm the kind of person where if I'm wrong, I can say I'm wrong. Like I can apologize and say, you know.
But what happens if you're never wrong?
I think it comes with I think because I told you I'm the youngest, so it's like I think that probably plays a big part in it. Being the youngest, you know,
trying to defend yourself, and have your voice heard.
Yeah, word.
So there was something we spoke about briefly last episode, and I would like to get your take on it as another married couple.
Let's do it.
We said advice that was given to us was work it out amongst yourselves. Don't bring any outside forces in to give their opinion, because let's say Leo says something crazy to you, you go tell your friend, but then you and Leo make up, but now your friend never forgets what Leo said to you, and now whatever. So do you take that advice in your own marriage? Is it something that's important to you?
I would say it depends on the extent of the argument or the what do you guys call it? The discussion.
The discussion, yeah.
Discussion. It depends. It depends because if there's like little things where like I can text my friend and be like, like I'm doing dishes again. You don't have to do dishes. You know, it's not that serious.
Yeah.
But I think it also depends on the relationship you have with your partner. Like if you're a married couple, as opposed to like he's your on again, off again boyfriend. Like then I would understand a friend being like, okay, I hate this guy. But like if this is your husband and you're just venting to your friends, I personally feel like that's okay because you need people to talk to. Like obviously, you know, don't hold that animosity and like not talk to your significant other about it eventually.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's realistic to say like don't ever tell anyone your problems. Like that's just like harboring all these feelings and that can lead to more resentment then. And another thing is like sometimes you need to talk it out with somebody else. Like you need to get someone else's perspective.
And sometimes when you say it out loud to other people, you'll be like, I might have overreacted.
Right.
Yeah.
I might have been blowing this out of proportion the whole time.
I think there's definitely two parts to that where it's one, you should definitely wait till you and your partner cool down before you reach outwards. Because then that way you do have that perspective where, all right, we settled down. Let me get a different take on, you know, what just happened. And then, like having someone else's perspective that maybe might click with you. Like, maybe, you know, I did overreact or maybe he does have a point.
But I also think like it's nice to have that like one or two friends that are also married that you can talk to about those things because then it's like you guys tell each other the same thing and it's like, okay, we can relate and this is maybe just a thing men do, you know? So it's not like I'm the only one having problems with my husband and I can't tell anybody kind of thing. It's like I can talk to someone about it and she has the same issues and it's just is what it is and we're just gonna vent to each other every now and then. But it's not, I think it's definitely different if it's like a serious issue.
I feel like if you're worried that your friend's never gonna forgive your partner, well then it's probably something really bad.
Right.
And you probably shouldn't forgive them either. You know, that's your fear.
Yeah.
Because most people who know you, like you said, know y'all as a couple. Like what can he really do that your friend's gonna be like, leave him right now, you know, like
how many dishes were there?
Like, you know, it's like I don't think he's worth it.
So that advice seems so toxic because it's like that means those type of very dangerous and toxic issues that you should be seeking help for, people want you to keep in,
right?
So that if you choose to forgive them, no one knows about the terrible, horrible, grimy things that happen.
Right. And I think it like if it's like some back and forth relationship, like I think those are easy for like friends to hate because they're like, okay, he's not even like, you're not even married or and you're constantly complaining, he's constantly doing things that he shouldn't be doing. Like that's when you get to a point where you're like, all right,
I think I don't
like this guy, you should leave him.
Another important factor in that is who you communicated to. Because if like, you know, obviously we're married and we hit up our single friend that's, you know, hey, you know, we're going through this. That single friend is going to have a completely different perspective because they, you know, it's not something they can relate to.
They're probably like, oh yeah, we go through that too.
I see that because sometimes, like, if I'm venting to someone, Travis, what do you mean? Everyone thinks well, not that you are perfect, my love, but you know what I'm saying? Like, people will be like, what? Like, so I'm like, all right, I need to talk to someone who has a good husband and gets that you could have a good husband and they still annoy you sometimes.
Right.
You know?
No, that's definitely, I agree. That's definitely true. I feel like all the people that I do like vent to, they are also new mothers who have husbands. And so it's just easier to relate.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have someone to relate to again because it's, you know, you want to know that you're not the only one. But then at the same time, I never really feel like I'm texting them like, oh my God, look what he did today. So it's like that weird thing where maybe in that sense, I'm not always sharing the positive. Yeah.
But you share.
It's interesting.
Yeah. But then it's weird because when you share too much positive stuff, you feel like you're showing off. It's like
maybe I should start bashing Luca some more.
Wow. But yeah, I think we could wrap it up. Anything coming up that you want to share? Like, I know for the past 2 years you've done like the budgeting. You say it.
Yeah,
Sing it up.
it's an annual budget spreadsheet.
Okay.
And I am gonna make a new one.
We have the 2021 one linked on our website.
Oh.
Yeah, it's been there since we mentioned it.
But there's a new one coming.
I'm gonna do one for 2022. I'm probably gonna work on it this weekend, so it'll probably be up sometime mid-December. But yeah, so that's like the bit of money stuff that I'm still doing because I genuinely enjoy making spreadsheets.
Yeah, like it's still part of your life.
I still
you
like
still
it.
Budget.
Whenever I sit down and like think about making the spreadsheet, I always get hyped. Like, look at this cool thing I can do. Ooh, I think I'm gonna add this. Like, that's something that still brings me joy to do. So I am gonna still do that. And I'll share it on Instagram when it's up. I'll probably do some fancy reels, how to use it, and all that. Those are a big thing. But don't quote me because if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it.
You're going to get this Luca rich.
But yeah, so I'm going to do that and then I'll post it.
And you could always just record some clips and then send it to Travis.
Oh, Travis.
And then we'll put it together for you.
Yeah, totally.
I'm pimping him out.
I don't have enough going on.
This is fine.
Let's see right away.
Well, thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.
And so I always end each episode asking my wife, "Do you still like me?" But I don't care about you.
Okay.
I like you too, Travis.
Thank you. But Brittany, Leo, do you still like us?
Of course we do.
Still like you
we
guys.
Aw.
Yeah.
We
Thank
like you
you.
guys a lot.
Okay. Thank you for having us in your home.
Yes,
It's
tove you
been
for
fun.
coming.
For real.
I love
Until
this.
next time.
Word.
Yeah.
Peace.
Peace.